love you, Mr. Brown. Yeah.
So I'm going to start with Michelle because ladies go first. I know you've seen the questions, but Michelle, what brought you to Las Vegas and when did you make the move?
I moved here for a job and I moved here in early.
My bad.
Thank you everyone for being here. We really appreciate it, Shannon and I, and Eddie and Dray, everyone. I moved here in early January of 2022, and I moved here for a job from Honolulu, Hawaii.
Honolulu!
Yeah! Shoot!
What was this job?
At the time I was a graphic designer, but then I kind of got recruited from a film collective I was a part of to be a producer for corporate productions, essentially.
Okay. And how long after arriving did you decide to create a short film, the Las Vegas Arts District, and what inspired you to make it?
I actually moved here. The guy that recruited me moved here with the idea to make a film before I even moved here. So we wanted to create content about the Arts District, and that's kind of why we wanted to move into the Arts Factory specifically. We didn't look anywhere else. What was the other question? So before I moved here.
What inspired you to make it?
The neighborhood. Like the neighborhood was the reason I came here. It wasn't Las Vegas, it was the Arts District. Yeah, so because this city is challenging, so it was the Arts District. Yeah.
And then you
I was talking about the Arts District in like 2020.
Okay.
So yeah.
And how did you hear about the Arts District?
Through Tom, the guy that I work for.
And how did you hear about it?
Because the neighborhood. Yeah, Dray told me. Because the neighborhood was popping off. He's been here like 8 years, maybe almost 10, somewhere around there, and was living in Hawaii before that. And he heard the neighborhood was just the art center for Vegas. So, you guys were doing the work, and like he was the reason I'm here, and you guys are the reason he's here.
Well, 2020 was supposed to be the year we released the documentary.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Okay, we don't know what happened there. All right. What do you envision for the Arts District over the next year?
I think for the people, for the artists that support each other, like you and I are artists that support each other, we're all artists that are supporting each other right now. We understand that we need to like sell our art to make money, but I think also educating the public and the Arts District like audience, they're art lovers and they're not art lovers, like they're just restaurant people. I think really getting that in their head that we will do anything to keep this going for us individually and us as businesses. So yeah, it's like a little bit more like business-like, but we have to because that's how we survive.
I love it. I love it. All right, next question for MP Arts.
MP Arts.
Go ahead.
All right. I remember seeing you dancing in the bars and the clubs on Fremont in like the mid-2000s, Papa Lockin' and stuff. And what brought you to Vegas and what made you stay?
So I transplanted to Vegas in 2009. It was either here or Los Angeles. At the time, I was living in upstate New York with a brother of mine, spending time with the family. And I was 27, so I was like, you know what, I need to make a change. And when I looked at the math, it makes more sense to be in Vegas, you know, money-wise. So I had a really good friend. So when I moved out here, I actually lived in Henderson first. For the first couple of years I was here, and a lot of it was economics. Fortunately, I've been raised in the hip hop scene through b-boy jams, being part of crews and stuff like that. So I've always been able to like run into people like Full Force Crew, Knucklehead Zoo, and it was like we would see each other almost every other weekend because they would be coming to like Riverside, Long Beach, Los Angeles, Hollywood. So definitely when I moved out here to Vegas, I kind of felt like I was like in the same scene of people that I was in when I was living in California, because I'm originally from Palm Springs, Coachella area. Yeah, so, and then definitely moving out here, it's another desert, so it feels like home. Like a lot of the scenery feels the same for me as the Coachella Valley. So, yeah.
Perfect. And why did you stay? Just because it's familiar?
You know, moving to Vegas, I don't feel like a lot of people put that on their map growing up as like, this is a destination, this is a place I'm gonna be, this is where I wanna live when I grow up or when I graduate. Especially when it comes to like entertainment, you think Los Angeles, you think New York, especially as a hip hop head, because those are like two really heavy meccas when it comes to the culture. I definitely had the privilege to spend time in upstate New York, so I would travel to New York City, stay with my grandfather in East Orange, New Jersey. So I got to like feel that essence and vibe of living in the East Coast for a little bit. So when I moved to Las Vegas and made that transition from upstate to over here, it definitely felt different. It was still West Coast, but when I say different, it was like more worldly and more cultured because, you know, Vegas is considered like the ninth island when it comes to, Hawaii. It's considered like the water hole of so much culture and greats that put their energy into this space called Las Vegas, from the Rat Pack, indigenous folks like the Paiutes. So all those energies just being here, it just kind of like, it felt more like home for me because I had that West Coast feel and because I've had the energy of greats that didn't necessarily live here. So I felt like my energy was welcome to the space. Definitely going to events that were created before I was here, like by Mr. Freeze, the Good Foot, and all these other places that were like kind of popped up and kind of set up for somebody like me. Definitely running into First Friday, which is something way different than I've ever encountered growing up. Having a set day with art, music, culture, people. You get to go to places like the Beauty Bar and check out that amazing event that they had there every First Friday. So just jumping into a space of people who really love music and dance. And then art was all over the space when it came to being downtown. And shout out to like Roz One and like different people who kind of really push that narrative out here, especially people like Dray and everybody inside those like cultivations of spaces for art when it comes to like First Fridays. Because not only did you have the Get Back, which is that community gathering, you actually had the First Friday Art Walk, which actually like didn't have to necessarily be a space of like drinking or like partying. It was actually like meeting people that live here and live through their passions. So, it's changed a lot since I've moved here. Like when I first moved here, you were able to like walk like maybe like 6-8 blocks just to be in the First Friday. It wasn't stuck in the arts factory area. So you had all this traveling, and during that traveling, which was beautiful about it is that from the arts factory all the way to Cornerstone Gallery, you're hitting different pockets of people. It wasn't the same people the whole time. You're meeting kids that are just linking up to dance. You're linking up with different types of artists and just the way they kind of vibe with each other. So you have this amazing event that's happening for 4 hours or 6 hours or something like that, but you're meeting like a huge melting pot of people. And then the cherry on top is going to the Get Back and being able to wind down and be like 21 and up, and it's like you were in two different worlds. So those events were amazing. I think another event that like really caught my eye that was surrounded around First Friday was the Meeting of Styles. When they had Mirror One come out here. He's somebody that I've been following since I was like art crimes on the internet, with the whole Project Blow and that whole crew. So like just to be able to come to Vegas and still get that California vibe, because this is still West Coast, but it's a different coast. It's like it's an evolved coast because we don't have to deal with a lot of the politics that come with a big city. I think the most beautiful thing about Vegas is that whether you're born and raised here or you're a transplant, everybody understands that we get to make it what we want it to be. And luckily for people like everyone on this panel, whether they're new or been here for the longest time, they've molded into this most beautiful thing that anybody can be a part of without having to worry about the drama that you get from a big city like New York or Los Angeles. So it's very unique, beautiful, and definitely welcoming, more than other cities and states that I've been in.
One last question for you. It's kind of like a combination of questions, but you started as a dancer, and then now you represent Nothing to Do LV. You're co-creator of that. What inspired that and inspired you to co-create? And what projects do you guys have currently in motion?
Okay, so There's Nothing to Do in Vegas is a common thing that people say once they're done going to the clubs, going to the casinos, doing all the Sin City, quote unquote stuff. And people kind of see our city as like just a tourist place, like no one really lives here, So with that saying, shout out to Coco Jenkins, because she took that saying and made something really positive about it. Basically making a statement with an answer with our actions. So Nothing to Do was birthed through Coco Jenkins and with her going to the Philippines and finding somebody that does something similar out there and then making it work for Las Vegas. And what's cool about Coco is that I actually met her at like two big events that I remember. One was a meeting of styles. I was at Cornerstone Gallery, and I got to meet her for the first time there. Second time as a musician at the Beat when they used to do the Monday event, the Human Experience. So just meeting her as an artist was really amazing, just because you don't see a lot of women in our culture really pushing the culture and not needing to have a bunch of guys behind them or an entourage. She was actually out there on her own, and she was part of like one of the biggest hip hop bands in Las Vegas. So for somebody to already be on as a musician and as I would say an icon in the city, for her to want to do something extra, like put together a website that had a calendar, that's what it was first, and then she considers me the baby daddy of the page because I created the Instagram of it, and together we've been curating this movement called Vegas culture. And it's been here before we started hitting the coin phrase, but we kind of really highlighted it because we wanted to represent something that's bigger than us. Because everybody that's in this room or that's a part of Vegas, at the end of the day, we want to share our events, we want to share our culture, we want to share what's going on, whether it's Mr. Freeze moving back in town, whether it's Dray's new gallery, whether it's Juan Muniz's new projects that he's doing with Golden Knights, or even new films and stuff like that. So like, how do we do that without it just being one person? So we put it where the whole culture can do that. So now we have our website, which is ntdlv.com, a little bit easier to say. And now we went from having the Instagram being our main attraction to our website again being our main attraction, where you can actually go straight there, get all the information when it comes to like every single event that's happening. We make it accessible for the city and people that live here to put their events on there. The whole reason why it started is because one, we wanted to share what was going on, and number two, for Coco, she wanted to make sure that people got together with their tribes. So whether you're a hip hop head from New York, whether you're a hip hop head from California, whether you're an artist from Missouri that just moved out here, or just somebody just coming out here to work in a casino, a normal job, but we want to make sure that you can connect with culture regardless. That's why ntdlv.com exists.
Oh, we have a question.
Okay.
I thought Dray was dead.
You know what's funny? I was driving out here, and I'm like, Dre's alive. He's on a flyer.
I fucking love you, Jay.
He's just saying he's alive.
Hey, sometimes people need a hiatus, right? Sometimes you got holes in different area codes, but it's okay. I I'm just playing. I don't know. He's gonna
I'm
talk.
sorry. I thought that nigga was dead and shit.
I thought you was Dre for a second too. I swear.
Hey, we did. Why go for his glasses?
That's the Filipino Dre.
Going back to the question, because I know Dre's gonna talk about this. I swear.
Talk about Dre right now. Fuck that. Talk about everybody else but Dre. Motherfucker, I know we all thought he was fucking dead.
I did too.
I was listening. I was like, wait,
Who's recording this?
I'm recording this. I got this.
right now.
And they come out with a fucking arsenal of art and shit. Like some crazy ass dope. Like, you're a
Crossroads.
Fuck that. Bring the ladies back.
We are running short on time, so we gotta
All right.
kind
Hey, the
of
ladies gonna die.
pass the
Thanks
mic.
for your input, Roy.
I love you, Dre. What up, Eddie?
All right, now we know that Dre's alive.
I love you, my brother.
As far as projects that Nothing to Do has, we've actually been making sure that the platform's available for people to put their own events. We're being the voice and the curators for events like Coloring Book at Planet 13, which is really dope. It features a live artist. That art gets raffled throughout the night. And then the artists actually get to bring black and white coloring sheets that people get to color in with pencils or markers or something like that. Just kind of something that gets people out of the space of digital and gets them into analog and actually touching and using their hands. So that event's amazing. We do a Blaze It Bingo on Tuesday. Just getting people active and doing something a little bit different besides staying home and being on the computer. You know, we made it outside, so we're trying to make it available when we're outside. We still artistic with it. So yeah, if you guys want to find us, it's ntdlv.com. You can find everything on there from what's ever going on. And if you can't find yourself on there, send us a message and we'll direct you how to get yourself on there and your message and what you gotta do.
Thank you, Art.
Thank you.
Passing it to Juan. All right, Juan, you've come a long way in your artistic journey,
That's it? Yeah.
making major strides with your work. I remember seeing you with the Nino Bunny, pieces on the wall inside the Brett West Gallery, one of the most stunning galleries of the early 2000s, I would say, one of the ones I wanted to showcase but never did. But when you first started creating art, what medium and style did you work with?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. And honestly, like watching the movie, today was the first time I saw it in full, and it took me down like a really amazing nostalgic path. And seeing a lot of people in there that I grew up with who ran around the streets were funny because I kept thinking, I was like, I know they're talking about it, eventually they're gonna get to Macrofy. And Macrofy was a group that I kind of came in because when I started doing it, what I looked up to was the 5-finger miscount. I looked at the wall, I didn't even know who the people were. And during that time, there was a group of artists that were coming out of like the Art Institute or CCSN, whether it be Mike Biggs and like Roxy and Don, like all of these people. And that was, I guess, my class. And I felt like we were like the class underneath, you know, the 5-finger miscount guys, because we were like coming up and we were the kids, and we looked up to them. And when I first joined the group, I actually wasn't a visual like painter or illustrator or artist. I was actually a poet, and I would write poetry, and that's how I became part of Macrofy. Because there was this guy, he went by the name, his name was Scott, but he went by the name of America, and he was an amazing street poet. And when I was a kid, I grew up with hip hop, so one of the things that I admired the most was shows like Def Poetry Jam. So I would write street urban poetry, and that's how I became part of Macrofy. So it wasn't actually painting. And then as I saw that we had rock bands, we had punk bands, we had like hip hop crews, we had graffiti crews within the actual collective, I started realizing that like I got invited to a show by Scream, another artist here in Las Vegas that kind of took me under his wing as a friend. And again, we were all part of that same group. And I realized, well, I like drawing cartoons, why can't I paint them? And I saw that he was doing paintings that were very illustrative and cartoony, so my style actually came a lot from him with the black outlines, and that eventually got me into doing more First Fridays, and that's when Cindy Funkhauser, like I showed her my work, and I was like, hey, would you mind if I show outside the tent? And she was like, I will, but you have to give me a solo show in the back of my store. So I remember like doing that. That was like the first thing that I was doing. I always wanted to be a cartoonist, but I never knew that I could start painting paintings of cartoon things in the walls and people would take it serious. And it wasn't until I actually started doing Here First Friday and Cindy took me in there. I had my first showing there. I didn't even know what it meant. By the end of the month, I came to pick him up, and she was like, "Oh, you're so smart."
Wow.
And then I got a tent. I didn't even know how to do it. I went to a 99-cent store and just got a bunch of stuff, put it together, and I had my 50 pieces, little tiny pieces, at my First Friday show, like at a tent, and that sold out. And then eventually, like, I started doing all these shows. So Mark T. Stillman up there, he gave me one of my first shows, and when he had a gallery all the way down there by Gina's, and I remember that's the one show that, like, to me, like, the top guy in Vegas, which is Danny Roberts, came down and he looked at my stuff and he was like, "You know what, man? I like your stuff, but you're just doing like graffiti little characters. You don't tell a story. Why don't you make it personal?" By that, a few months later, I was like, I had a show at Gina's place, which was over here at this side, and I created a little bunny named Felipe because I wanted to do something that was personal, that I was dealing with, and the entire show was called A Collection of Self-Portraits That Look Nothing Like Me. Until this day, I'll give Danny Roberts credit for creating that rabbit, even though he yells at me for telling me, "No, you're the one that made it." I'm like, dude, if it wasn't for you, Katie, and all, Dray, and like all the people that I looked up to, I wouldn't even been doing this. So they're the reason why I started like really, really painting instead of just drawing on the sketchbook.
Well, that was my next question, so you answered that one. Where did the Nino Bunny come from? And okay, so you've used your art to inspire others and have made a significant impact on the whole city. How do you feel about your accomplishments, and what advice would you give to upcoming artists?
When I was out here, I went to Iceberg's house when Dale Mathis, another amazing artist, first got a show at Planet Hollywood. And I remember sitting there in Iceberg's house and looking at all the paintings in the walls, and I was like, man, I can't wait to get to that day. And I think I was like a year into it, and he was like, this man's been doing it for over 10 years. He was like, so I just saw Dale being excited as he was, and all the things that were happening. And I remember I said it to myself at that moment, I'm like, I don't know what's gonna happen 10 years from now, but I know that as an artist, I was always gonna make a living doing art. I didn't know in what way or form. But it wasn't until those moments hanging out with those people that it really sparked to me to just keep going. And looking back, I didn't realize that this much time has passed. And the one thing that I just keep telling young artists that I meet, or even like my own kids that want to pursue this, is that it's never a thing that you're gonna technically make it. It's a path that has its hills and its valleys, and the way that you know you have become a successful artist at the end of the day, honestly, for me personally, it feels like it won't be until that day when you're taking your last breath and you realize that you gave everything that you had in your life, in every aspect of it, in order to share with the world how you feel. And if you are able to do that constantly, and this is not just to be a working artist, it's just to be an artist, because like that saying says, every child is born an artist, the problem is the remaining one once you grow up. So if you allow yourself to continue to be that artist, to let that inner child constantly come out of you, to create, to get dirty, to just have fun and not stay within the coloring lines, then you're never gonna fail as an artist. Now if you want to talk about business, that's a whole different complete world, but to be an artist, to just keep moving forward, at the end of the day, the money will come, the money will go, but stay true to yourself and put out not what's gimmicky or what's popular, but what to you means the world and you want to share it with the rest of us. And that's the only way that I feel like true success comes. I've lost money, I've gained money, I've had huge contracts, I've been broke as hell, and at the end of the day, I just know that if I'm putting my true self out there, it doesn't matter if it gets picked up or if it gets bought, but if somebody in the street at one point tells me your work moved me or motivated me or inspired me, then I'm already on the great path to do what I'm supposed to do in my life. So just stay honest to yourself, because everything else will come.
Thank you so much. Dray is over.
Dray's here.
Thanks for sticking around, guys.
Probably not gonna be as talkative.
I know, we're gonna wrap up here soon. Mr. Freeze is last but not least. Okay, Dray, we've been friends for a long time. Going back to the days of the Arts District and your time with the art the collective Five Finger Miscount. I know you discussed this in the film, but what originally brought you to Las Vegas? When did you arrive? How did Five Finger Miscount form? And what was the goal for that collective at that time?
I got here in December '99, the turn of the century basically, and I didn't plan to move to Vegas, not at all. You know, I kind of, my plan was to go to Atlanta, but there were some artistic opportunities that presented themselves at the time. It was like, all right, maybe I'll stay here. And in the process of me being here,
Hold the mic a little closer because you have
yeah. So in the process of me being here, I got involved with everything I could as far as artistically. Next thing you know, I was doing an exhibit at a library, and the person that came along and signed my guest book was Iceberg Slayton. And so he wrote some like graffiti-looking writing on the way. I'm like, okay, this seems like one of the cooler people in Vegas just because of the writing. And he left his number, so I hit him up. And that's how I got involved, being from LA, coming to Vegas and trying to get involved with the art scene. That's what got me involved with all the underground kind of local stuff. Because when I got here, I was doing like, he saw my art at the library exhibit, and I was doing stuff in galleries and stuff and all that. But short, long story, long. But we hooked up and we started vibing off some art shit, and he knew all these artists here that was just badass artists, but no one was able to get shows. So I had a familiarity with getting shows at galleries, and he had a club sense for promoting clubs and all that. So we basically combined that, and we started just doing art shows and just making opportunities for artists here in Vegas to show their stuff and do what they love to do. And it just led to so much other stuff. It just opened the doors for a lot of people that didn't have a place to show their art.
When we started working on 7021 Strip together, what made you want to jump on board, and what are your hopes for this documentary and its impact?
I think what happened with that, we were both simultaneously doing the same thing, but just not knowing what each other was doing, and we just kind of came together as far as just being so involved in the
I made you
art
do
scene.
it.
Pretty much, she made me. No, I think it was going to happen. I think it was going to happen regardless. I think it was just a need for it, because a lot of people just didn't know what sparked what, and still to right now, as far as how the arts district looks and everything, people don't know that it took like Shannon, like Eddie, like all these people here that were all involved in the art scene here to really make it happen, and it drew interest. It made people come down here. And here's the thing, from watching that documentary and knowing how involved I was in it, we all were involved in it, you would think right now there would be an abundance of galleries. But that's not the case. It's the whole gentrification thing kind of happens, and next thing you know, the artist makes an area really like the fly place to be, and all the money comes in and turns it into something else, and all the fly artists gotta like bounce and what I would hope, what I would think, what the thing is really to like pay attention to those people that made it possible for you to actually be here and thrive how you thrive in it. Let's make it all work together, because we made it work first, and now you're here, so let's return the favor.
Thank you, Dray. I'm gonna hand it to Eddie. I know that Freeze, you're gonna be last. I'm sorry, but Eddie, next.
Yo.
Okay, Eddie, you've been a part of the art scene since the early days, but I really got to know you in 2010, I would say,
Yeah.
when you were with the Three Bad Sheep.
Yeah.
How did that collective come together, and what was the inspiration behind it?
Three Bad Sheep came together as a experiment for us individually to break free from our own constraints. So we started off by collaborating with each other, and the way we started was we agreed that we would trade pieces to get us to break free by seeing the other people work on our piece and push it into a new light that we wouldn't have otherwise. So the idea was that when you create by yourself, you get kind of stuck in your little shell, right? But when you open it up to other people's opinions and you see what they can bring and you really take that genuinely, then you can grow a lot faster when you are taking criticism or seeing in a new light a different avenue that you could go into. So that's how that started. What was the part of that question?
That solves that question.
That was that.
Okay, after the passing of Alexander Huerta,
Yeah.
the collective stopped creating art together, and you went through some major life changes,
Yeah.
and you transitioned from a visual artist to a DJ.
Yeah.
What led you to shift your creativity towards music?
The pandemic, not being able to have a gallery, we had to close our doors, and this was something that I could do at home creatively, you know, be 6 feet away from people. It kind of, went down that road.
Yeah. Would you say that you now express yourself more through music than painting, and why?
I would say no. I mean, I still show work and have work. It's a fine balance between work, art, and music,
Okay,
and family,
good.
and paying bills, everything in life.
All the things.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to artists who feel like they need a creative shift or exploring a new artistic direction?
I would say be open to everything. You can find artistry in everything: dance, music, painting. I mean, anything you could possibly imagine, you could go down that avenue. And don't be afraid to change and make new friends and make new growth, and go down uncharted paths. Because it can lead you somewhere beautiful.
Thank you, Eddie. Mr. Freeze.
Thank you.
I really need the mic.
Yeah, you need the mic. Okay, you're one of the original B-boys from the late 70s.
Thank you for putting me in a.
You dated you on that one.
Thanks for dating me.
What was the era like? Can you describe what B-boy jams looked and felt like back then?
Where? In New York or here?
In New York.
Well, a perfect example is the Get Back that John Doe did, S Boogie, I believe. Who else? Four Eyes. That was a typical scene of that genre of music, with the people just enjoying themselves, and all of a sudden a cipher forming. Exactly like that. Minus the stick-up kids after, and probably a little bit of violence, but that was the Bronx, and this is here.
Okay. Times have changed, but would you say that experiencing the battles now, do you think that the same spirit exists in B-boy jams today as it did back then?
Of course not.
No?
No.
And how so?
Well, it's, same thing with the arts district. Everything here is organic. It was built in a certain way where the growth came, it just grew on its own. They didn't plan out and map out things and said, this is what we're gonna do. Our jams were just spur of the moment. Or we would go to particular jams that we knew in different sections of the Bronx where we knew particular people were, and there was an excitement because you never knew what was gonna happen. Meaning, we knew a battle was gonna happen. We knew Cool Herc or Grandmaster Flash was gonna come out with a beat that we've never heard before, which is why we went to those parties. That nowadays, it's things have changed. It's more of a, pay your money at the door. Everyone's breaking, and that's all that's happening. I look at the downtown district, just to get off the subject a little bit, as a mixture of the Bronx, the good part of the Bronx, the creative part, but yet Soho in New York. Soho is a fantastic place. Back in the days, nobody wanted to live there until John F. Kennedy Jr. bought, a place in an empty factory, and now, a place that was $40,000 at the time in the 80s is now worth $40 million. And this is how I look at the arts district and everything that happens. It's just I'm so impressed. I feel that hip hop, the culture I grew up with, is more here rather than any place in the United States. I've always gravitated to come back. I came here in '84 to be in a show called Splash at the Riviera Hotel, and my mindset was like, I want to go back to New York. I don't want to be in this Dust Bowl. I want to do this, I want to do that. And every time I would leave and I set foot at Kennedy Airport, I would say to myself, this happened maybe 13, 14 times. I go back and forth. I always came back to Vegas. I left 10 years ago, said I'm never coming back to Vegas, and now I came back a year ago, and I'm never gonna move back to New York because I truly feel more at home. There's so much growth going on here. When I came last year, I couldn't believe what was happening. Because when I came here in '84, it was nothing like this. Nothing. So I love everything that you guys did. Your documentary was well put together. Everyone, all you guys that helped build this organically, it's really impressive. Because as you two know me, I'm not impressed with many things nowadays.
Me neither.
I really, and I'm quick to tell someone, like, what do you think? I'm like, that shit sucks. They'll tell you.
I feel the same. I feel like I'm jaded growing up here. Nothing's exciting.
This is a great place. Well,
So you already answered my third question. So
perfect.
the fourth question, looking ahead, what do you see for the arts district in the next 5 years?
I mean, I hope it just keeps growing, and everyone spoke here, I think more galleries would be fantastic. More galleries. The block party that they do at First Friday is something like I've never seen before, other than in Holland, for instance. Holland, once a year, they have a big get-together, all hip-hop. So hopefully this is gonna keep growing. And I don't like the term that people would say, the yuppies moved down here. Creative people move down here. This is the place I come here on a Sunday with my little dog, and I just walk the streets because it's such an electrifying feeling in comparison to being on the strip.
The yuppies came later.
Yeah, I mean, they come and visit and they go back. But it's just energizing to be here. I love it.
Yay. Thank you, everybody. Anybody have any questions before we set down the mic?
It's nice to meet you.
Good.
Nice to meet you.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you guys so much for being here.